Okay, at this point, we've gone over all of the annoying grunt work to get our 8-cut together. We've gotten rid of all of our mistakes. We have internally cursed ourselves, maybe even externally, cursed ourselves about how many mistakes we made while recording it, and lamented the fact that we spent like literally an hour filming a video that is only lasting 14 minutes and 31 seconds. But that's absolutely fine. At this point, we've got a fantastic foundation, and let's just delete all these markers. I'm right-clicking them. Delete. Delete. But now, at this point of the video, we're going to be talking about how to add all of the various B-rolls. And usually when people tell me that, oh, your editing is really good, what they really mean is the fact that I've got transitions and title screens and images coming across and timestamps where I've got stuff going on and screen recordings and all these other bits that just add a bit of spice to the video. So I'm going to be breaking down the process of adding every single one of these in turn. And let's start with the title screens. Essentially, this is a plugin from VideoHive that does this. VideoHive, by the way, is a fantastic resource for anything video related. It's run by the Envato networks, which is like GraphicRiver and Themeforest and VideoDen and AudioDen, VideoHive, like all these various sources of getting plugins and transitions and stock footage and all this sort of stuff. And actually, since I think it was since about 2009, 2008, when I first started designing websites, I have been fully getting all of my images, all of my themes from the Envato network. So I'll put a link in the video description. I think there's a video description on this thing. I'll put a link in the video description to the particular plugin that I'm using, but essentially the idea is that you buy a plugin from VideoHive, you install it, and then it appears in this titles and generators sidebar. Now, what's a title and what's a generator? The way I think about it is that a generator is like a full screen thing, whereas a title is just something you add over the top of your existing footage. So the plugin that I'm using for these sorts of titles is Easy Edit YouTube Essential Library version 3.1, and this is the one that I'm using. So I'll show you what this looks like if I just scrub through it. That is what that looks like. And so in order to add one of these titles, what I'm going to do is just drag and drop, and then I can put it anywhere I want on my footage. So let's zoom in and figure out where the best place to put this is. So this is a sort of full screen title. Class and Skillshare on how to edit videos for beginners. But yeah, that's enough with me plugging that class. Let's get on with the video. Okay, so firstly, I want to talk about a book that I read this month, and that. Okay, so you've seen what's happened there. This becomes a sort of title almost that gets put over the top of this. And so I can add it wherever I want. I could add it there if I wanted to. In animation. So if you're into the whole video editing thing, then you should definitely check out my new online class in Skillshare on how. But like, that's not particularly helpful because I want this to be like a segment divider between the different sections of the video. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it at the end of this, but I want it to overlap a little bit. So I'm going to use Shift and comma, while you've got a whole clip selected, moves things one frame to the left, and full stop moves things one frame to the right. Shift and comma and Shift and full stop move things five frames to the left or to the right. I think it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 or 10 frames, something like that. But either way, I'm going to select that point and I'm going to move it to the point just where I feel comfortable having this overlapping what I'm saying because I like my edits to be tight. So let's see what this sounds like. Class, let's get on with the video. Okay, so firstly I want to talk about a book that I... Okay, so that's fine. But that was a bit too much of a long pause. So normally what I do is I just like really shrink this down. So this is what it looks like now. Class, let's get on with the video. Okay, so firstly I want to talk about a book that I read this month, and that is Ready Player One. Okay, so I think that's a bit better, but now I can actually adjust the length of this transition thing. So here's how that works. Let's get on with the video. Okay, so firstly I want to talk about a book that I read this month, and that is Ready Player... Okay, so I think that's actually fine. Obviously, I don't want it to say Anne Ponomarenko. I want it to say Ready Player One. So what I can do is I can select the thing, go on the inspector, and this is where I can change all of the various settings that I want for my particular plugin. So if I change the text, I can make the source text say book or just Ready Player One, and then hit enter. And who's it by? Ready Player One author. It's by Ernest Cline. Okay, Ernest Cline. Yeah, that looks very reasonable. And so if I play that, on with the video. Okay, so firstly, I want to talk about a book that I read this month, and that. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so that gives me the text. Usually the font that I like to use Avenir, so I'm going to click on the text settings and change it to Avenir. I can just type that in. I want to change it to heavy. And usually what I like to do is if I select the text itself, I like the bottom bit to be a little bit more light. So we've got Ready Player One, Ernest Cline, and I'm not a fan of this tracking. It's a bit too much, so I'm just going to change that to 0. And that makes the text a bit more compressed. So I can basically, like, whenever you get a plugin from any other resource, you can and should be editing it to make it your own rather than just doing a default, plugin. But you can use the default thing if you want. I just think that this Ready Player One Ernest Cline fits more with my style. It just looks a little bit nicer than the text spaced out apart. So we're nearly there. Now we can adjust the colors, and I want to make this my own colors. So fill color, click on that. I've saved this color blue as the one that I use for all my stuff, but here's a pink, here's a blue. If you want a new color, you just select it, and then you can drag and drop it over here. And now you've got this saved for any project that you want. So it's generally useful to have a consistent style. So Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. And now this bit is a drop zone where you can add anything that you want. So normally what I do here is I add an icon from flat icon. So I'm going to go on flaticon.com, and I'm going to find the icon of a video game. I'm just giving away all my secrets here, guys. This is amazing. I quite like that one. So I click on it, close this ad. I want it as a PNG. I'm going to free download. Okay, now I've got this open as a PNG. Now what I want to do is I want to actually import this into my project. So one way of doing that is by doing Command I, which lets you import anything, and I can navigate to my downloads folder, desktop, not desktop, Ali, downloads. I think that's the PNG. No, that's not it. Content created, joystick.png. It's all black right now, but I can import that in. Now I should find it in my browser. Here it is, joystick. The problem is this is an entirely black image, so I want to turn this white. Now in order to turn this white, what I could do is I could put it into Photoshop and make it white, but actually I think there's a slightly better way of doing that. This is a bit more advanced, but hey, while we're here, I might as well show you exactly how I do it. I'm going to drag and drop this somewhere onto my timeline. So now, first watch the movie, and I absolutely love. Obviously that looks absolutely terrible, but we need to have it on our timeline if we want to make changes to it. And what I want to do is I'm going to click on it, go on the color tool, and using the exposure tab, I'm going to take the shadows and make them go all the way up. So what that does is it takes all the black bits of the image and makes them very white. And boom, all of a sudden, the black bit of the image becomes completely white. And you would never ever do this for an actual video clip. Like if I did that for a video clip, it would look ridiculous. Yeah, it would just get rid of absolutely everything because we're massively overexposing. But if you do it for this black image, it becomes white. Now this is still not very useful. You might have seen the movie. I first watched the movie and I absolutely love it. That's still not very useful, but now here's the magic of this plugin. We click on this, and within the clip settings, it says drop zone, no source. So we can click on that, and then it asks us to choose a clip that has the drop zone you want to use. And the clip I'm choosing is this one. So if I click on it, boom, look at that. This plugin has now taken the clip that I've just added, which is just this image, and has put it within this circle. But obviously that still looks a bit bad. But thankfully there is an option here that says scale zone, and that means we can just change the size of this. Look at that. And roughly 21%, it sounds reasonable. You just kind of do it by eye. And now what I can do is I can hit apply clip. I can even delete this because it's done what it needs to. And now look at what this looks like. Class, let's get on with the video. Okay, so firstly I want to talk about a book that I read this month, and that is how you add a simple full screen title thing. Again, I'll link the plugin in the video description. Definitely check it out and browse VideoHive. There are a whole host of like really nicely designed plugins that if you can modify them and make them your own, you can make your own personal sort of branding style when making your YouTube videos. And this is something that I then do for all of my videos. So before we're ending, I'm just going to do that across all of them. So let's zoom out with Shift Z. Let's find the next point. That's this one. I'm gonna just paste that in. So I've just copied and pasted the same thing. Now I'm moving this over a few frames so that, how about that? Your copy of this particular book. And I know that I want this to stop roughly there. It doesn't really matter. Of this particular book. All right, secondly, I want to talk about a podcast that I started listening to recently. Okay, so this is a podcast, and so what I want to change this text to is my first million podcast. I mean, it's not that book. All right. Okay, slightly annoyingly, this has now gone bold again, so let's just select that, change it to light. My first million podcast. Yeah, that's reasonable. I will figure out the icon later. I just want to get the copy and paste stuff done for now. So let's copy that again. Scroll, copy, move along to the next bit of the video, paste, move it across a little bit so that it overlaps a few frames in, doesn't really matter. adjust all this.
Really good podcast to listen to. All right, thirdly, I want to talk about a blog that I discovered, and that's by the...
Okay. And at this point, this is Nat Eliasson's blog. So blog Nat Eliasson. Let me just double check. What's his blog? Nat Eliasson with a single L. It's Nat Eliasson with a single L. Let's just make this light. There we go.
To listen to. All right, thirdly, I want to talk about a blog that I discovered, and that's by this guy.
That's fine, and let's just do it for the final bit. I think there's 2 more bits to do it. Copy.
Check out this guy Nat's blog. You should check out this guy Nat's blog. Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm talking about this board game, so I'm just going to select that, change the text. One Night Ultimate Werewolf, enter board game. Go on my thing, double click to select the text, double click to try and highlight that bit. Avenir, light, press escape.
This guy Nat's blog. Yeah. And finally, I want to talk about a board game, and that is One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
So I think that looks all right. Now, for the icons, obviously I don't want all these things to have a video game icon, so I'm going to change the icon for each one. So we've got a podcast, we've got a blog, and we've got a board game. So I'm just actually going to go in flat icon and find relevant things. So the first one was podcast, so let's just search for podcast. This looks all right. Actually, I don't like how non-centered that is. Let's just go for... If it's got a little king icon by it, that means it's a premium thing, which is slightly annoying because you have to pay for it. I don't like paying for stuff. Actually, I don't mind paying for stuff, but so I'm going to download that one. Good. Ignore it for now. Let's do another one for the blog. Let's see if there's anything with blog. Yeah. Let's go for this one. Doesn't really matter. Let's just adding a bit of flair. And finally, let's go for the board game. Oh, wolf. Is there a wolf icon? That would be nice. Yeah, oh, that's quite nice. Let's go for this one. I think this looks cute. Free download. Okay. Now I've got my 3 extra images. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open them up in my downloads folder. And I know they're here, here, and here. And now what I can do is instead of having to import them into Final Cut, I can just drag and drop them straight onto the timeline or into my library bit. So I'm just going to put them straight onto the timeline because I don't really care, because I know I'm going to be making edits to them. Now I'm going to take this one, going to go on the color correction settings, whack up the exposure to make the icon white. This is just so that I don't have to do it in Photoshop. And now what I can do, again, we're getting quite advanced here, but whatevs. I can copy it with Control C, and I can paste the settings that I've applied to these other clips. So I can select both of these with Shift and Select. Then I can use Command Shift V, which pastes attributes, and it lets me choose what attributes I want to put onto this. So you just Command C to copy and then Command Shift V to paste attributes. I think if you wanted to use a mouse, you could go Edit, Paste Attributes. There we go. But obviously, why would you use the mouse when you can use a keyboard shortcut? I want to apply the effect of the color board, so I'll select that one. And now these icons become white as well, which is all very high tech. Let's change them now. So this one is the blog icon. So I'm going to go on this. I'm going to select the drop zone. It says choose a clip that has the drop zone. I want this blog. Perfect, that looks good. Apply clip. Let's find the next one. What was the next one? This was the podcast. So My First Million. Select the drop zone. Select the podcast icon. That looks all right. And then where's the werewolf thing? There it is. One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Select that. Select the icon of the wolf. That looks all right. Apply clip. Now we can delete these. Oh my God. Okay, and now.
My First Million, really good podcast to listen to. All right, thirdly, I want to talk about a blog that I discovered, and that's by this guy called Nat Eliasson. And
yeah, that's how we add like full screen title stuff. Again, as I said, just pick any plugin you want from VideoHive and install it, and you know there's going to be like a README installation instruction. So each of these have slightly different instructions. It involves opening up a specific folder on your Mac and then dragging and dropping the. It's very easy to install these things. You just follow the instructions, and then you can add stuff to them. One final thing is that it would be nice to add a sound effect to this.
My First Million, really good podcast to listen to.
It would be nice to have like a sound effect as this new thing happens, but we'll talk about sound on our C part, on our C cut. So we've done our A cut. Our B cut is adding the visual effect, and then our C cut is going to be to add sound effects. So this is how you add a full screen title-y type thing. Let's now talk a little bit more simply about how to add text and how to add images, which is going to be in the next video.